Boom. All right, there we go. So, Manto, talk to me. Tell me your history with Ratchet 2 or just Ratchet and Clank speedrunning in general.
All right. So, I mean, I had to go through, like, I always wanted to run the games. Like, I always wanted to speedrun something. When I was very young, I did, like, 3DS, like, webcam recorded Super Mario Brothers 1 runs, because I found some speedruns online. And I didn't do very good, but I always wanted to actually get good at speedrunning. I thought it was really cool. So I got a capture card one day, and I got a PS2. I decided I wanted to run Rack 2 because the other ones were just not as interesting when I tried them, and Rack 2 was the easiest to get into. I got recommended it a few times. I found the Rixer, and I watched his videos. I actually I didn't like how the speedrun looked initially, and that's part of the reason why I guess I became such a stubborn runner in the end, and like trying to find strats, because I looked at stuff like that and I was like, oh, there's probably something more there, right? And that was very telling, because at the time I didn't know enough to be like able to change any of these strats, but eventually I got good enough and better in understanding. So when I did get that sort of mad, like, darn, like I wish this was better, like I hate the setup for this, I eventually did fix it, and that ultimately would help me kind of strat hunt a lot, which is kind of what I do in the most part now, because I just don't have a lot of time for grinding. That's kind of why I stopped running No IMG after a while. So, but yeah, I got hooked on the NG Plus categories really early, and I had a lot of fun with those for about a year or so.
Nice. If I might ask, I don't know if you remember any specifics, but like when you said that you watched Ricky's run, you said, this doesn't look right. This looks slow. You know, what anything in particular?
Yeah, lots of stuff. I can even cite specifics.
Okay.
Smolg always was the worst, because Smolg has this really long, strange wall climb. Uzla was another one that made me like, ugh, because a lot of them, a lot of the routing for Rack 2 is interesting, because Sneepy defined it once as, you don't go straight to the objective in Rack 2. You go wherever the decoy glove takes you. And I think that's very important to say, because the decoy glove is just such a powerful tool that even if you're going a tad out of your way, getting that height and that speed just really fixes a lot of routing, where in the old times we had first-person wall climbs, and that was seen as the most broken tech, and we would just wall climb across like the water on Uzla. Now we look at that, and that's far slower, and we just realize, like, wow, we actually take a very big detour instead of a straight path, because the tech we have now is so much more powerful than we had before, but we're taking a more unoptimal line. So it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I agree. I was telling Ricky, I was like, man, I feel like most communities, most speed games would kill for a glitch like wrench climbing, right? Like, it's easy to do. It works really well. It's a little slow, but it's so versatile in that what you can do with it. But Ratchet's like, no, it's not good enough. Like, it's too slow.
Yeah, there's a lot of unused IJ tech in other runs as well. Like for Ouya, they have the Tira guys jumps, and they only use that in any percent. They don't use that in NG Plus because it's just not powerful enough. And then when you watch any percent, it's like, wow, some of these levels are faster with the Tira guys. And it's an IJ, and it's really cool, and it's got a lot of application. But the thing is, it's just too slow to get. And I think that's a lot of the weight in Ratchet and routing, is just that, like, in NG Plus, it's like, how much can we eliminate? In an NG Plus, like straight NG Plus for Rack 2, we eliminate, I think, every gadget. We store one of them. We will eliminate getting every gadget, but we only store one of them. We get the swing shot when we can. And in No IMG, because we can't skip to the end, we have to only get like the electrolyzer, and that's kind of the routing of NG Plus, just getting rid of everything possible, even if it's useful. You know, like the swing shot saves time, obviously. It's just, can you weigh getting that item? Well, obviously not. You would never get it because it's just slow. But the weight of just like something can be extremely powerful and useful, and we see its application in other categories, but we don't put it in just because, like, no, that's slow to get. That's just not worth it. So it's cool routing, especially like
Yeah.
because finding something, it's like, all right, well, this is obviously not useful for this category, but what if we did for this? And that's kind of like how I find a lot of stuff, is just like messing around with different items that you wouldn't think to.
Yeah.
There's a quote I have on my alt account.
Mhm.
It's just a joke. It's not like super serious, but I have it as the wallpaper of my alt account. I'm pulling it up. It's Scotto, and he says, Mantodea is the only person who thought, what if we use different weapons? And that sentiment is obviously kind of faded now. But eventually, yeah, people started to realize that, like, holy cow, we have a much bigger toolkit than we thought. It wasn't just wall climbing, it was the decoy glove. And now you'll see, you can go look at some of these really early runs. There's a really cool PS3 run for NG Plus, which I think is absolutely worth talking about. This Japanese runner, as soon as the collection came out on PS3, he did a run, I think it was only like 11 minutes, and he uses like 3 guns the entire game, and he completes it in 11 minutes on the PS3. And that's incredible to me. Like,
Yeah.
how far we've come and how much like we remove and we route out all the time. Because if you look at No IMG now, we have a full quick select. We have the whole thing filled up because everybody's just like, eventually it's like, we started out like, all right, well, let's take nothing in. But then we're in NG Plus, so we have every weapon at our disposal. So it's like, well, let's see like what we can take in to save time. Let's see how much we can do. And there's still option for like adding stuff. So like right now, there's even the theory of adding like the sniper, but is it really faster? Kinda, but is it worth adding? Yeah, maybe. We could totally save time with that. It's theoretical. There's so many weapons in the game, and it's just such an open game for something so linear.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's a cool route.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ratchet and Clank, one of the beauties of that game is that there are so many different weapon types.
Yeah, it's like the casual kind of spills out into the speedrun because, like, put in an entirely different way. It's like the weapons are super unique and casual, and it's like, that's cool. But they also made them very different. And you can see weapons like from Rack 1, they're very different. And they have a lot of, like, shortcomings to them in a way. Like, they're a little more broken than the Rack 2 weapons, per se, but they all have their own little, like, uniquenesses to them. And I believe we're not done finding them. I think there's still more to come. There's a lot of weapons that have potential for being really cool. We just don't see it yet. It'll eventually happen, though.
All right. I like the sound of that. Speaking of finding new things, I believe Scotto said that you and him were the ones who spent a lot of time finding proxies. Is that correct?
Proxies?
Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I didn't really find many proxies per se.
Okay.
I was there with Scotto when he talked about a lot of it, but I don't think I think he did most of the heavy lifting there, if anything.
Okay.
I was a huge supporter of like no specials at the time, and that's how Scotto got his start. He got world record in No IMG in what, like 13 attempts, because he was just grinding no specials beforehand. So I was there, but I don't know if I'm exactly the one that did that. That might have been Azaki, if anything.
I don't know. I'll have to go back and listen to it because I swear he said there's somebody else, but it wasn't Azaki. That was not the name that he said. But
yeah, if he said it was me, then he is just being very humble.
Okay, that might be the case.
Yeah.
But anyways, tell me more about the no specials and Scotto and how he was able to transfer that to no IMG.
Well, proxies were thought to be this. I just joined the community at this point, so this was 2 years ago. Proxies were just pretty much coming out of the wet works, and everybody was saying like, "Oh, you can't go over this. This is too hard." Because wall climbing was so easy, so of course the skill floor was at the lowest it could be for the game. Yeah. And then when we added proxies, it was like, "Oh, well, this is kind of difficult." But at the time, like, a lot of runners for other games might have been taking Rack 2 as more of a joke. And I know it was seen as like the bastard child. Like, it was seen as a game kind of less potential heavy. Like, everybody just thought it was the fun wall climb game that you can play and then sort of just get rid of. But eventually, like, over time, it evolved and evolved and evolved and evolved and turned into a game where, like, hey, this one's actually pretty good. This is a lot better than we thought it would be, and it's really cool to see it eventually evolve. And the thing with no specials is that was the first route where it was really fun, and people liked playing it mainly because it had Clank at first. You went to Endako, and that's a planet we never go to in any category. NG plus, like there's just no reason to, because it's a whole planet away. You got to load that planet, then you got to go do a Clank section. Like, no, we're not doing that. So we had Clank, and then also at the time we had the decoy glove with its new applications. And Scotto was one of the first people to be like, "Yeah, I'm doing all of it. Like, I'm just gonna keep throwing stuff at the wall until it sticks. You know, I'm gonna try every one of these proxies, see what I can do, see if they work with or without Clank." And I think having Clank in the route might have helped. I don't remember exactly, but having Clank would make you land in an area like a little easier. So like if you have a high proxy and you need to land somewhere, Ratchet of course doesn't have a lot of air strafe unless you're like actually holding strafe. So using the glide and landing there might have been easier. So he kind of took that as the training wheels category for no IMG. And then when he went there, he just tore it up. I remember he would grind for like 2 hours and get a world record, and then that was just like that was it. Like he just outdated the last one so much harder and so early and so quick, and that's when it began to tear up, just destroying all the NG plus and the no IMG records.
Yeah, that's the thing that's crazy is I think it was Fear, maybe it was Torpedo, who made a really good statement where they summed it up really well, where a lot of no IMG's developments have happened outside of the category.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I can give some notable examples.
Absolutely.
Poking, I found that one, and I worked on that with Fear for setups and stuff. Poking, of course, is the tech we do on Snivelac and Yeetle. I found that in max percent because that's an interesting category because you get to have every gun fully upgraded when you enter NG plus, and of course you're playing on the limited PS3, so you kind of get to experiment more with things you wouldn't normally be using or pulling out. So I started using the hover bomb for the bosses more because I always thought it did a lot of damage, and I was always confused why we only used it in max percent and like hundo, and we just didn't use it a lot. The only potential we saw for it, or at least people saw for it at the time, was in no IMG. We're using it on Siberia sometimes, only sometimes though. We routed it in for a completely different reason, which was there was a strat on Smog we used it for very briefly, and then so we had the hover bomb, and we could then use it on Siberius because it would one-shot the boss. So it was a little bit faster, but the potential wasn't fully realized at that time until I started running max percent, and you have to fight more of the bosses. And I noticed something during that, and during poking, when I found it, it was that if you shoved the gun into the boss, it wouldn't put it up in the air like it normally does against a wall. Ratchet, like, he doesn't, when he's firing normally, or when he walks up to a wall, he'll put it up in the air, just for added realism, I guess. But when he walks up to a boss, he doesn't do that. So you'll notice the bombs don't even have a chance to spawn, but the damage does, and it also uncaps the fire rate. So you can just start dealing mass damage to a boss. And I was doing this on all the bosses, and I was noticing I was doing them like half the time. And then I always thought, like, why didn't we do it on the Protopet? Like, how is the Rhino so much faster on the Protopet? It never made sense to me. And then one day Fear was like, all right, let's just find it. Like there's got to be something here. Let's just spend like 2 hours. And I had an essay due, so I was in full panic mode, and I was just like, all right, let's just do it. Like, let's get it over with. And so I was like, here's what we do. We're just gonna charge at him, and it was messy at first. We were like trying a bunch of different things. So like we had the synthenoids out, and that was the initial thought. And I was just get in his face and just start spamming circle with the synthenoids. And then we noticed it, and we noticed how fast it killed it. And then we were just like, oh, we have something on our hands now.
Yeah.
We have a loaded gun. There's a lot we could do route-wise for this. And when we eventually figured out when I eventually like noticed like, oh, that's the thing I was doing in max percent. That's exactly what I was doing. We don't need the synthenoids. We routed that out. We just equipped a shield and started hover bomb and timing it. We noticed we'd kill the boss in 2 seconds, pretty much, like almost flat. Like it's ridiculously powerful.
Yeah.
And then the crazy thought came in my head, and I was like, oh, I got to do this essay. But what if we killed the Snivelac boss with the hover bomb? And it was like, oh my god, that opens the window for like so much more than you would initially think. Because the thing is that there was a very similar strat, and it's lost to time now because nobody will own up to actually finding it. But you can stand on the bridge in wrench only, and that's how we were killing him for 1 minute. But we couldn't figure it out all the way because nobody ever had gone far enough to like actually care about doing it in wrench only, because the other strategy we were doing was fine and it was less risky. But the thing was, you needed Clank initially that we thought. So we were like, oh my god, we're going to route Clank in. Like, we're going to have him in. And it's totally feasible. Like, if this saves like 15 seconds, having Clank, it would save 3. And then we could do other stuff with Clank and it would save time elsewhere. And it's like, oh my god, there's so much. And then like the looming thought came in and it was like, we don't even need Clank for this. There's no way we would need him. And then we were just like, all right, well, that's out the window. But how much time does this save? And we were like, I think it saves 12 seconds nowadays. I think that's like the ideal time. I think it saves 12 or so. But like the major thing is that we were beginning to route out the only auto scroller in no IMG and NG plus. And that was the most important thing to most of us, is that the Sheepinator was finally getting routed out of every category. And it was really cool to see the game evolve, like firsthand by my own doing. And of course, all credit to Fear as well for helping me do setups and stuff. And I didn't have my PS2 open at the time too much because I was trying to do the essay. But like it was crazy to be like, this is really exciting, because like such a small category getting a 10-second time save or a 12 and routing out an auto scroller was just like, wow, this is gonna be nuts. Like, this is gonna be something that like changes the game a lot. It's gonna be like, I remember we were overthinking the time save at the time. We were just like, oh my god, this is the next proxies. But like, nah, it was cool though. It was cool to actually like take something from one category and move it into another firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
But like other examples are like proxies, obviously, for no specs. NG plus, like swing shot storage was a theoretical route. I don't know if that's actually still like optimal or not, but there's a lot of like little things that got routed into no IMG. Especially poking is the most modern example I could give, though. But
Okay. What are some other things that you found? I think Zero Drop is one of those.
Yeah, Zero Drop was the day of GDQ. Me and Scotto and Fear were all in a call, and I found something because I hated the setup for it. There's a video that's called 3-drop setup, and it is just ridiculous because it made no sense to me. And I hated it. I absolutely loathed this strat, and I had to do it at the GDQ relay. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to find something else. I'm going to find something just out of brute anger. So what I did is I just decided like to step back and think about how this worked and why it worked. So I went as far away from the enemies as I could, and I got a 1-drop, and then I was like, oh my god. And then I got it again. And then I got a 0-drop, and I was like, I got to get everybody in here. So I called up Fear and Scotto, and we labbed it out for a while. And this was like right before the GDQ marathon. Mm-hmm. And you'll see Scotto and Fear. Scotto was the first one to actually like start the setup, and then I made a setup for it. And then I actually do the same setup we do nowadays, pretty much like 1-to-1 in that GDQ run, which was within 24 hours. When we found it.
Wow.
So I hit it in the GDQ marathon. I missed the early mine, but that's not the important part. Is because I hit the 0-drop, and I was just like, yes, I don't care about the rest of the run. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure I was able to show off the new strat in best fashion that I could. But it was really an awesome experience, like to work with everybody on that, and just to finally realize and make a setup, and it was just really cool to find everything with 0 drop.
Yeah, man. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I guess while we're still on the topic of finding things and innovations and things, I believe Fear has been working on just redoing a ton of things. And he was retiming every little thing every 5 seconds. He'd be like, all right, what's the fastest way to do this? Do we go left? Do we go right? Do we go this way? Go that way? Have you been involved or have you helped out in the process at all? Or
yeah, I think my specialty per se is not exactly movement stuff for NG+.
Okay.
I'm not amazing at finding movement, minor time saves, but I'll find things like ship setups and boss kills and stuff.
Okay.
I'm not really very great at finding exact movement setups. Just specifically for this category, I don't know why it doesn't click for me as much.
Okay.
I found a lot of backups and a lot of things that are kind of fast, but not really. And a lot of minor setups and a lot of things that might be TAS only. There's a theoretical thing where we shoot the Visibomb as soon as we get into the electrolyzer and then Death Abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that only ended up saving 1 second max. And it's really hard to do. So a lot of my things either barely work and they're not worth going for. But maybe Fear will go for it one day, or they are very, very boss oriented or ship oriented, or just not really movement per se, but more just the bigger idea of something silly that nobody else would look into. I guess I go for the job nobody would want to do. Right now I'm looking for an RNG manip for something, and that's something nobody wants to do. But but yeah, Fear. That's definitely Fear's specialty, and he was talking about this a while ago on stream, and the conversation got railroaded after a while. But I thought it was really interesting. He said, "Oh yeah, Manto looks for things nobody wants to look for, but I'll look for movement things. It's good to have people that look for 2 different things, because eventually you cover everything.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be the best way to have everybody comb over it, but it definitely gets stuff done. And I think that's why No IMG and NG Plus just have been getting crazy low recently. It's because we just have such a good team of people looking into stuff. There is just a lot of people who have great specialties in strat hunting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Scotto is also like that. I think Fear also does this little timings and time saves and stuff. But should be noted, Scotto, while he hasn't run NG Plus in a while, when he was in his time, he has so many little things he found as well. There's all kinds of little what would I say? What's that planet's name? Sorry, I can't believe I can't remember it. Tabora, he has a lot of he had a little movement techs that he was just optimizing, and sometimes you'll see Scotto run the game again and he'll pull out something, he'll be like, what? How did Scotto? You never told us about this. Or he'll be he'll just pull something out and he'll just be like, oh yeah, I thought about this. Or he'll pull up a VOD from 9 years ago and he'll be like, yeah, I used to do this all the time. So there's so much innovation in the game, and there's so much findings with, especially how much Fear still finds, and the crazy stuff that we've been finding over time, and the amount of mishmash of categories. Smog Backtrack is such a cool strat that Fear found. It blows my mind how ahead of its time it really was, because now we do Smog Backtrack in APB, and that's totally where I helped do that, implement that strat,
Mm-hmm.
and that's totally where I got that idea, is doing Smog Backtrack, because Fear did it in his NG Plus run, and it was wow, it really was ahead of its time. It's a good idea because it was so fast to reload at the time.
Yeah,
and just and there were strats just even little things that got eventually obsoleted, where you land at the end of the rail. If you land up top, you save time because Ratchet needs to be grounded to enter a cutscene, so it takes less time for M to enter the reload. So initially it was like people were landing beneath and were like losing time per se because of the reload, and we were just like, oh, this reload's killing us. It's killing us strat wise. It was just really cool to see everything kind of come about for the like strats to fear finds, because they're just such little things nobody looks into. I know Ricky probably went on about it. I know he was talking about that. He specifically said like, oh, I watched NG Plus run, and I was just like, I expected it to be all the same, especially for like Bolden and stuff, because those planets feel so solved. But then when you look at Fear, he's on a whole nother level for those for that type of stuff. It's just crazy how like little tiny time saves add up. And Fear always says that to everybody. He's always it drives me crazy, but he is right. He's right. He always says little time saves add up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So you said you sort of joined the community whenever Scotto was doing his no special stuff. Were you around when Scotto and Zem had that beef?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I won't even lie. Like I would throw my log into the fire because I thought it was entertaining at the time. Like in the moment, like I won't lie, I was entertained. But that was a nasty beef. I don't know how many people go into that, but that was not as clean cut and resolved as fast as it actually was. But it's an interesting sort of timeline, because I don't know if it's like the best to go into too much, because it is a lot like more. They were both. I think Zem was more angry than Scotto for sure.
Oh yeah.
If you look at what happened, a lot more hot-headed, but I'm glad it's all in the past, and they haven't had any serious arguments in a long time. So I'm glad it was a one-off.
Yeah, I know they're friends now, so it's like I don't want to spend too much time, but I think a lot of people would recognize that the competition between the two of them drove so much innovation in the category that I kind of think we just have to at least talk about it at least a little bit. We don't have to get into the details about who said what and who called what who, or
I think it is worthy to note one thing I remember hearing. I remember Zem specifically said, "I'm going to get a world record so optimized, Scotto isn't going to be ever able to beat it." And I thought about that, and I was like, I think I even like Zem had Scotto's chat open because he was streaming at the same time, and I was like, "Dude, he's saying he's gonna get a time better than you, and you're never gonna be able to beat it." And Scotto was just like, "I'd like to see him try," and it was really like, "Oh, get him, beat the time." And I'm normally super anti that, because eventually with my final PB I put in, a similar situation arose, and I hate that sort of stuff myself, like getting into it. So I threw in the towel, and I just kind of quit the category after that. But I thought it was entertaining to be there and experience, even though it's not like the most pretty thing. But yeah, there was definitely like a real like, oh, you, I'm gonna get your time, and you're not gonna ever be able to beat it. And then the other guy was like, Scott was like, you know what? I'd like to see you even get near me. And it was just so entertaining, to say the least.
That's good, man. Yeah. Whenever I talked to Zem was very much more animated about it. He was like, yo, man, back in the day, man, we hated each other. We were constantly going at each other. We were constantly doing all this. And then I hated that guy. And then I asked Scotto, and Scotto's like, oh yeah, well, I did say something mean about him on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think I know what caused it as well. I don't know how much that's explored, but pretty much he beat a time on a console, and I think it was about Ouya actually, and he was like, "Hey, I'm glad you got world record on a console that saves a lot of time. That's not better than the last PB." And it was meant to be in jest, but like it, I guess Zem didn't take it that way. And then Scotto was like, "This is so." I remember Scotto told me, he was like, "This is so stupid. This is just really stupid, and I don't get why he's so mad at me." And I was like, yeah, I have no idea, but like you should go over and kick that guy's ass. Like I was feeding into it. I didn't have a good time or anything, so I couldn't participate. I don't even think I was running at this time, but I might have been doing NG Plus like really early on. But I was having a ball watching it.
That's good.
It made me want to run. It made me want to run and throw my hat in and get people mad. But I don't know if that's the best motivation, but it was fun to experience.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Zem had done a trifecta any percent run, and he beat Rack 1 any percent on PS3 when the previous guy was using PS2.
Okay, so it was I thought it was about Ouya, because Ouya, of course, was getting swapped around on its optimal console as well. So there was a whole era of PS3 revolution at that time. Like PS3 was kicking up on every console. The only console yet to like be dethroned from its sort of glory is Rack 2 in a way, because we still have 3 out of 5 consoles. I mean, categories on the main boards, optimal on PS2. And there was a big sense of like dread of like buying a PS3 and like, oh, I don't want to get an SSD. I don't want to buy a PS3. That's the worst. Nobody wants to do that. And I guess maybe Zem might have taken it as like, Scotto just doesn't want to get a PS3. He thinks it's stupid, and maybe gotten mad about that. Because there was a whole period where everybody's like, what if this game's optimal on PS3? And everybody's like, no, it can't be.
No.
Yeah, especially with the Rack 1 video, I remember people were like, no, I don't want to clip with the decoy glove on PS3. That sucks.
Yeah. It was just harder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just harder, and that's how it is on PS3. Things are a little bit more finicky. So people don't like didn't like PS3. So maybe that's what actually started it. It was a different climate, because now PS3 is like, yes, like let this be optimal on PS3. But now, like before, it was like, no, please don't.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's any other thing I wanted to bring up. Let's see. I'm running out of things here. So what are some things that we haven't talked about that you think are super important? Which is kind of a broad question, I know, but I'm running out of specific questions for you, right? So I'm like, you got good stories here. I know you can tell me something, but I'm just don't know what I'm trying to pull on, if that makes sense.
Speedrun.com and see if there's anything worth noting for the history.
There's one thing I have. I think Scotto told me that when he got that 24-22, he wanted to walk away to let Fear take the world record.
Oh, okay. Oh, we should definitely talk about that, because that's important. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up the obsoleted runs. That way I can pinpoint the exact run. Which was it? 24.
(24-22) on
here it is.
November 27th.
It's not exactly that. That was not the run I was thinking of, but I did find the run I was thinking of, and it's Scotto's current PB.
That's 23:55.
Yeah, so 24:34. Everybody was in VC for this PB, so this was like a really relaxed PB on Scotto's end. Like, we didn't even realize he was on pace for a long time. He just kind of got it, and it was really cool. It was like, wow, that was really fast. Like, it almost seemed so easy for Scotto. And eventually, Fear would break through and finally get world record at that time. And of course, his description on that one is like, oh my god, thank you everybody. Oh, this was crazy. And then Fear tore it up, and then the relay came, which of course was a huge period for innovation because of Zero Drop, and eventually we would find more stuff down the line. But Zero Drop was a big one, because Zero Drop was like 10 seconds. It was a lot of time for a category like that.
Yes.
So when we found the relay, I got Scotto back into the game, because me and Scotto were just like, yeah, let's let's run Rack 2. Let's keep going. I don't even like this game anymore. I was just like, let's do it anyway. And I got Scotto back into the game, and Scotto was just like, yeah, I could probably get world record now. And then he got it, and I remember that hit Fear hard. I remember that was just like a punch in the gut to Fear, and Fear was down about that. I don't know how much he'll tell you. Maybe he's just he's trying to seem humble, but Fear really got punched in the gut from that. I remember him not being happy about it. And if you go check his description, he shouts everybody out again because he worked so hard to get to beat Scotto's time because it just walled him. I remember he thought like, I can't do it. I can't beat this. This is too hard. But eventually he would push through. And this was hard for him to actually like break through. And this was one of his harder PBs for sure. And I remember everybody was super hype and proud about him for this. This was a big milestone until the next like period of innovation, like poking and sort of everything with NG Plus would eventually funnel into no IMG. But that was a huge PB for Fear, and that made a huge line in the sand versus Scotto, because at that point Scotto didn't give up per se, but Scotto went on to other things. So that was the last time Scotto would ever PB in this category up until whenever he decides to go back. But I remember I wanted Scotto to come back because I believed in him, because I knew Scotto could do it if he put his mind to it. So I pushed him to because of the relay. After the relay, I was like, yo, you can get world record. I know you can. And he's like, I know I can. Don't you worry. And I remember he took it so much quicker than anybody thought. That was fast. I think it was like 3 days. It was like, wow, he's just on another level. Scotto's still my favorite runner. So I've always been a fan of him ever since he was running no specs. So it's always really cool to see him sort of still be good. It's like, yeah, that's him. That's Scotto. He can still do it.
That's my man. That's my man.
That's who got me into Rec too. Yeah, I didn't want to run the game at first for a long time because I thought it was like kind of boring. But Scotto would stream like every day, and it was like, this is a lot cooler than I thought it would be. And I tried out things. I was learning movement, and he was just tearing it up. It was really cool to see. So, like, watching him be like, yeah, this is easy, made me think like, yeah, it could be easy for me too. So it was cool. It's always cool. But Fear finally, like, I think after beating that PB is when Fear broke out of his shell and really proved himself as a bar above everybody else. I think that was the first run where it was like, yeah, he's holding his ground now, and I think he's gonna hold it for a while. He's got a pretty good PB now, so he won't tell you it's good though. He always says everything's trash, but
yeah, but
he
also
PB.
told me he's going for a 22x.
Yeah, he always says he's going for this and that, and that's just the type of person Fear is. If it's not task level, it's trash. That's how Fear acts. But you know what?
Task, it's trash. There we go.
Yep. And I think even now he would call his NG Plus run bad, but that's his NG Plus run. Definitely is one of his most impressive accomplishments ever, I would say. I would say his current world record is his best run for sure. It's incredible. That is a huge barrier for the game, just in general. And the level he was on compared to everybody else, I think he was 30 seconds at that time. Sneepy's time didn't exist. So Scotto stood there for a year, and it was 30 seconds of time save, and I remember he just smashed that. Like 30 seconds in an NG Plus run is crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. And so many new players join, and just you see them sort of fizzle out immediately and just give up. And Fear was one of those people I never thought would give up. Like when I saw him running, and when I saw him getting better, and when I saw him getting frustrated, you always knew he'd be back the next day. You always knew he loved this game, no matter how much he talked down upon it, no matter how much he disagreed with the game, and he didn't like it, and how bad he thought his run was. He was back the next day. He was ready to rumble, and that's a big difference between Fear and Scotto. One's a big personality. He's very, very like it's got to be perfect. And Scotto's he's just playing the game. He's got nothing else to say than his time, and that's really what interesting. That's what makes the rivalry is that Scotto's such like a stone figure. You know, he's there. You can't you don't think you can move him, and he'll show up and he'll just wreak hell, and then he'll disappear, or he'll just destroy the competition without even saying much. He'll just say nice, and then he'll move on.
Yeah, I from my interview with him, I can definitely say that Scotto is a man of few words.
Yeah, he is a man of few words. He's good at a lot of games, though. He's not playing around. He's also very good at Ouya, and he picked it up fast. Like that is he really got good at that quickly. And I know even at his categories in other games, like he was really good at Tetris, Puyo Puyo. Mm-hmm. He went to GDQ for that, and he's crazy at games in general. I think Scotto is just all around just incredible at games. I think he could do anything he sets his mind to, and that's scary. That's all I'll say.
Dangerous.
Yeah, competing with him is a lot. I was running Any% recently, and I decided to pick it up because I knew I could get a good time in it. So I got second, and then I was like, should I go for first? I'm like, ooh, Scotto's first. And I was like, no thanks. Yeah, he's real good at the game. He's real good at every game.
Nice. Okay. All right. Is there one last time? Is there anything we haven't talked about that you think we need to talk about right now?
Let me look just 1 second. Let me look at a few things, see if there's any history I don't remember.
Yeah. Let's see here. I think Ricky was a bit before your time. If you know anything, we can talk about that.
I watched Ricky's PBs on YouTube, and I think I talked about how I watched them, and I always felt like there was room for innovation, and it almost disappointed me watching it back then. And it sounds rude to say, but it's just like
I get
at the time there was so much first person in the run. And nowadays you watch it, they enter it like 4 times total. I think the entire run.
Yeah,
it's so much less nowadays. There's just so much we used first person so much back in the day for just unnecessary stuff, and it just always seemed like watching the other games compared to it. I think Ouya was the golden child for so long, and so many people just focused on, Ouya's the best. Ouya's the best. There's nothing that can be better than Ouya. And then when you actually watch an old Ouya run, and it still looks pretty optimized compared to if you watch an old Rec 2 run, you'll see they do a lot of wall climbing. It almost seems like the experimentation wasn't as much, but it almost a lot of things just at the time were just so much slower compared to Ouya. Ouya really was just wow, this is so good, and that has changed. That really has changed. Ouya really isn't the golden child of Rec games anymore. I think most people, it's a toss up, and nowadays where people will be like, Rec 1's the best, and that's my thought. But Rec 1's the best. But if you ask even Zem or Wingo, I guess, or anybody running Rec 2, they'll be like, APB's incredible. It's really good, and that's a good choice too. But even people nowadays, Wiffle went live for an hour, and he just said, I don't like this game anymore, and he stopped playing. And he's been playing this game for years, and it's just the generational gap has finally come to a new season of the game. I guess it's changed. The game has the direction the community has taken is changing. Categories like NG Plus are becoming more of a back burner thing. People are liking Any% in all bolt categories more. So the thing is, you have people like Fear who still hard focus on NG Plus, and that's why they get so optimized. It's just other people are just sort of occupied with something else, and Fear's just every day he's got a new time save, and it's just leaving people in the dust, and it makes competition harder. And it is a it's quite the thing that Fear is just still so head set on just breaking his time, and just when you think like, all right, he's done. He hit the 7x barrier. He's like, "Ooh, wait, hold on. What if we got one more thing?" And he'll call me up and he'll be like, "I need more time save. I need you to find something. I need you to find something." Like I'm at my wit's end, and he'll be like, "All right, I'll hop in a call with you and we'll find something stupid. Maybe we will, maybe we won't." But it's still the idea that like, Fear is just so he just believes in Rack 2. And I think that's something that we didn't used to do all the time. It's like nobody would when people thought about Rack 2, they were like, "Oh, that game sucks." Like Zem would always be like, "Well, Rack 2's terrible," or like the future games or anything. So I think that was actually a huge part of the feud. I didn't mention it, but I think the real part of the feud was that Zem thought anybody running Rack 2, it would be so easy to beat their time, and he has a tweet up about it that happened from when I ran the game, and he got mad at me for beating his time at the time. And don't put this on anything, but he put something out like, I could beat every Rack 2 time, and it was just because at the time people thought less of like Rack 2 runners, or like it was thought as like a dumb game. But I think Fear really helped show like, yeah, this game can be really optimized and hard, and it's not easy. It's not just wall climbing around everywhere. And for that, I thank him. I think he did the game a good service by getting such a good time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I kind of see as a theme is that for a long time, Going Commando kind of lived as like under the shadow of Ouya. It was like,
yeah, we had the same movement guide. We had a lot of the same like trick ideas. Like eventually, even when they would find something, we'd be like, "Oh, maybe you could do it in Rack 2. Who knows?" But now it's like, "Oh, we found proxies in Rack 2. Yeah, and then we'll find them in Ouya next." Like that's when the sort of like the things changed. It was like, yeah, maybe Ouya isn't as center focus as it used to be. I think Zem loves Ouya a lot more than most people love Ouya these days now. But even he's burned out on it.
He's playing it for like 8 years or whatever.
yeah. I think he has the right to complain about it not wanting to play anymore. I think he's kind of he's hit his limit on it, I guess. But the games have changed, the times have changed, the generational gap of like 2 years. You look at, so much has changed. It's crazy how much things we've found. And it's all like, it's like 5 people finding everything too. It's really like Fear, Scotto, like me and Sneepy, and then we'll just find a ton of stuff and change the game. And it's like, it's crazy how much like Fear and Scotto will push it. Like I'll throw the dog a bone, and you'll just see how much they can what they can do with it. They can just go crazy with a lot of these stuff. It's cool to see, like especially with poking. When we first found poking, we had a setup for it, and all of a sudden, like I was like, "Yeah, you guys do like a weird setup. I don't think you guys do it right." And eventually, it was like, "Yeah, we got this new strat." And I go to check Fear, and it's just insane. He's doing like all these proxies and stuff, and it's just like, that really is it. He's a little bit of a cut above everybody else right now.
Yeah,
it's very cool to see how the games have progressed. And even though I'm not running anymore, I'm proud of the progress we've been making.
Hell yeah. Okay, I think that's a good place to end it on.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Awesome.
I have at least to say, but yeah, I think I told you the 2 runs I think would be important to note. I think that was just the NG Plus run. The current NG Plus world record should be brought up. That'd be cool. And
I think so.
And then Scotto's marathon run is very important. The one, his second place run, he got world record in. And then Fear.
Oh yeah,
having to sort of make that journey there. That was hard for him. So
All
Yeah, but
right.
that's all I got to say.
All right. That's a good place. Let's go ahead and end the recording here. Thanks so much for chatting with me, dude.
Yeah, of course.
All right.